And next we're going to have Lauren Chianese. Yes, she'll be presenting for Florida's Foundation for Florida's Future.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. I'm glad that you guys are here and resisting the carnival. I had a hard time making it into the door, not just going straight over there, but we'll make it there eventually. I think it was a perfect introduction to what I'm going to talk about, because what I'm going to talk about now is kind of go into a little bit more about Florida and the choice programs that we have here in the state. And I was a teacher. I taught middle school in South Los Angeles. Most of my students were from Mexico, and a lot of their parents didn't speak English at all, and I actually had to learn Spanish in order to interact with them, but that was 13 years ago, and I don't remember any of it, so I apologize. My sister-in-law, who's from Nicaragua, tries really hard to help me, but without success. So, but one thing I want to do is, just because I was a teacher, get a little bit of audience interaction. So I want to ask, what do you think about Florida schools? So generally, do you think the Florida schools are in the bottom third, the middle third, or the top third? So are they the worst, kind of in the middle, or the best? So if you think they're the worst, no? Okay. Okay, fair. In the middle? All right. And the top? Okay. So Florida schools 15 years ago were the worst. We were the bottom. We were not doing well at all. But we have implemented a lot of changes, or what we call reforms, that have actually improved Florida schools tremendously. He talked about some of the statistics. Our Hispanic students, on average, are doing better than the average student in 21 other states. That's huge. So Florida schools are actually in the top third now. But that doesn't mean that we don't have a lot of room to grow. So let me tell you a little bit about where Florida schools were 15 years ago. If you can go to the next slide. And I am a visual learner, which means that if somebody talks at me and doesn't show me information, I'm going to forget it all, which is why I have slides. So you can see here some of the information. So we were at the bottom. When we compared ourselves to other states, we were at the bottom. We were 48th, 49th. The joke is we were glad that Mississippi were around because at least somebody was below us. And not to insult Mississippi, but it wasn't good, right? That's embarrassingly when I graduated from high school from Florida. So things weren't going well. We also were in decline. It wasn't just that we weren't doing good, we were actually getting worse. And then there was a huge gap. Have you guys heard of the achievement gap, the term the achievement gap? It's basically the gap between white and affluent students and low-income Black and Hispanic students. So white, affluent, and Asian students tend to do better on assessments than Black and Hispanic and low-income students. It has nothing to do with the ability of those students. It has everything to do with how our system is serving those students. And there was a huge gap in Florida. So that was not okay. And so we started implementing reforms or changes. So if we can go to the next slide. This is just, again, pointing out the bottom line. You guys probably can't see the colors, but the bottom line is Florida, and the top line is national. So we were below the national average. It wasn't okay. So we decided to implement changes. And if you go to the next slide, the changes kind of fall into three big buckets. I'm not going to go into the detail of exactly all of these, but one was measurement matters. We have to have data in order to know whether or not we are, like how we're performing, one, and whether or not we're making progress, two. And the other one was we have to create incentives using funding to incentivize behavior. So if we want schools to improve, we have to fund schools so that they want to improve. And then the third category was competition works, and that's what I'm really going to talk about today, is some of the choice programs. And in my personal belief, these choice programs are one of the biggest reasons why Florida has come so far, not to say that we don't have far to go. So go to the next slide. One thing I want to point out, and you probably heard in the news, have you guys heard a lot about opting out of tests and the standardized test stuff, right? I just want to point out really quick the connection between testing and choice. So my organization, we actually believe in something we call fewer, better tests. We don't think that we can eliminate every test, because if you eliminate every test, you have no data. You don't know how students are achieving. I mentioned that achievement gap. If you take away the data, how do we know that our low-income students aren't doing as well as our high-income students? How do you know that our Black and Hispanic students aren't doing as well as our white and Asian students? And if you don't know that, nobody can act on it. You know that in your heart, right? But if you can't prove it, no one's going to do anything. So we think testing is really important for that, but we also don't think that you have to over-test in order to get that information. So go to the next slide. One of the biggest things that we do with testing is we provide information to parents. We use data to give information to people because we think if parents have really good information, they can make better decisions. We used to grade schools or rate schools in the categories in red: fully accredited, accredited, denied accreditation, accreditation with warning. Like, what does that mean? As a parent, that doesn't mean much. It doesn't help you understand, is my school doing well? Is my student learning? It's more about whether or not the school got some sort of certificate. So what we said is, well, we all know grades. Everybody got grades when they were a kid. Students get grades now on an A through F scale. Let's grade schools A through F, so that when parents get that grade and they say, gosh, this school is a D, they know that that's not a good thing. Or if they get a grade and that school is a C, which my high school was, they say, you know, we could do better. Or if they get that grade and the school is an A, they can be proud and celebrate that. And so without testing, without that standardized test, we can't provide this information to parents. So that's one critical piece. And without that information, how do parents make decisions, right? I mean, you can make decisions, but I think it's a critical point for that. So this pie chart just represents some of the choice programs. So, you know, I wanted to highlight why testing is important. Testing gives information so that we can act as teachers, as parents, as school leaders, as school district leaders. We can take action on those tests. And part of that action is the ability to choose a school that is a better fit for your child if the one they're going to isn't a good fit. And Florida actually has one of the most robust choice options in the country. So a lot of, there are states that have no charter schools. There are states that have no scholarships. Florida has a couple things. We have online, so Florida Virtual School. We have charter schools. We have the scholarship, which Will is going to go into detail about. We have the voluntary pre-kindergarten program. You can do part-time online, where you can go to a traditional building school for half the day and take online courses the other half. And then our newest choice program is called the Personalized Learning Scholarship Account, and that is for parents of students with special needs. We also have the McKay Scholarship, which is another example of scholarships. Are you guys familiar with McKay Scholarships? Okay, so McKay Scholarships are scholarships for students who have IEPs, or individualized education plans. So these are students that have a learning disability or a special need. There are 28,950 students in Florida using these scholarships. And you can use these scholarships to go to any school in your district or a private school. Most parents use these scholarships to go to a private school. Another example is the Florida Tax Credit Scholarship, which I'm going to let Will really go into in detail. But there are about 70,000 students right now taking advantage of these. And the difference between the Florida Tax Credit Scholarships and McKay, Florida Tax Credit Scholarships are for students who are low income. McKay scholarships are for students who have learning needs, special learning needs. They can actually use one or the other. A student with learning needs can use a tax credit scholarship, but a low income student wouldn't apply for a McKay. Another one, and this is the new one that I mentioned, is called an education savings account, or what we call in here in Florida is a personalized learning scholarship account. It's very unique because you do not have to actually go to a school site. So you don't have to drive your kid to school every morning at 8, drop them off, pick them up at 2:30. This allows we call them PLSAs. PLSAs allow parents to actually create a very unique learning, almost like a menu of learning options that cater specifically to the child's learning needs. So one of the disabilities that is eligible for these scholarships is spina bifida. Children who have spina bifida have a lot of hard time sitting up, controlling their body. If they can't sit up, they can't read, they can't learn. And so one of the things a lot of parents do is actually horse therapy. So for maybe 30 minutes, 2 or 3 times a week, students go out and ride horses. Now, that's not logical. You don't think, oh, that's educational. But if the student doesn't get that training to control their muscles, they can't learn in school. And so it's really important. And so far, this is the first year that we've implemented it. So far, it's been amazing. Okay, so charter schools. Are you guys familiar with charter schools? Okay. Charter schools are public schools. They are publicly funded through public dollars, just the same way that a traditional district school in your neighborhood is funded. The difference between a charter school and a traditional public school is that charter schools are not run by the district. They are run either independently or by what we call a CMO, or a charter management organization, that runs a couple of charter schools. And the reason why charter schools are different is their independence from the district allows them to be a little bit more innovative and do some different things. They don't have to abide by the same union contract as the school districts and the teachers within the school districts. That doesn't mean that not every charter school doesn't have a union contract. Most in Florida don't, but it allows them just to be innovative and creative. And to get into a charter school, you have to apply, and if there is more applications than there are spots in the charter school, they do a lottery. So they actually put people's names in a box and pull it, and the parents who get pulled first get in. And I actually did that on Wednesday, and it was very emotional because there were 750 applications for 10 spots. Only one person that was in the audience actually got in, and it was very, very emotional. And there are 203,240 students in Florida in charter schools right now. So a lot of students are taking advantage of this. Voluntary pre-kindergarten is another choice program. You can choose to go, that's why it's called voluntary. I'm not gonna talk much about that because it's not kind of a K through 12 program. The last one I wanna talk about is Florida Virtual School. So if your student, for some reason, I have a friend whose cousin is a professional surfer and he's 16. He takes 100% of his courses online through Florida Virtual School, so that if he's traveling in a surf competition, he doesn't have to miss school. There are a lot of reasons why kids might want to take virtual schools versus traditional schools. Maybe they're being bullied. You know, maybe they have some social anxiety and they don't like being in those large classes. Maybe they do something like surfing, or they're dancers, or maybe their parents travel a lot and they have to be able to kind of move around. So that's another really amazing option. And Florida Virtual School is one of the best rated virtual programs in the country. And actually other states hire Florida Virtual School to run their virtual programs. Okay, so why does all this matter, right? Choice not just helps the individual parent. So if you choose to go to another school, one, you're likely to be more engaged because you're not being forced to go there, you're actually choosing to go there. So as a parent, you're gonna be more involved. But what it also does is it requires the other schools in your neighborhood to step up their game a little bit. So if a charter school opens in a neighborhood and the traditional public school and the private school see that charter school open, they're gonna say, all right, Now we have competition. So what are we gonna do to entice kids to stay in our school? And that happens all around. So actually, as choice increases, we actually see the achievement and the quality of the schools around those choices go up. So when another choice option is added, every school in the area increases their achievement. Every kid benefits. So there's not just the individual benefit for choice, there's also the kind of when the tide rises, all boats rise. So I'm going to end on this note. I love celebrating the achievement that Florida has made, especially when I think about when I graduated high school here, we were 48th, right? And I felt it. When I went off to college, compared to my friends who were from other states, they were way above where I was. I struggled. I almost dropped out. I almost lost my scholarship in my first year because I couldn't keep up with the math and science. And I was lucky that I found tutors and I stayed, but I actually had to switch majors to history. But we've come really far. We've come very, very far, and that's something to be proud of, especially for Hispanic students. But we still have really a lot of room to grow. And not only just to compare ourselves with other states, but we're competing against other countries now. You know, there are more engineering students graduating from schools in India that can speak English than we have in America. So more people in India are graduating with engineering degrees who can speak English than we are graduating people in America who can speak English and have engineering degrees. Like, that is concerning. It's not too late, but we have to work harder. And so that's why we continue every year to advocate for changes in the legislature. That's what my organization does, to increase options for parents and to increase the quality of all of those options. There's actually one on here that I didn't include, but there is a charter school bill that is aimed at increasing the quality of charter schools and also expanding the charter schools currently in the state that are doing really well. So if you are out there advocating, definitely talk about that. But there are 3 other things happening in the legislature right now that you should definitely be aware of. One is we want to expand this personalized learning scholarship account. We want to make sure more kids are eligible for it, and we want to make sure that it's easier for parents to use. So that's one thing that's happening right now. I had a parent up in Tallahassee testify on Wednesday, and she brought people to tears. It was unbelievable. We are trying to reduce the number of tests and make them better. So one of the things what that actually looks like is give the information to parents within 3 weeks of the child taking the test. Give the information to teachers within 2 weeks of the students taking the test, so that people can actually use the information, so that test is not just a test where kids have to take away time from their learning, and then who sees the results? We want the results in the hand of the people who can actually make decisions. The other is, let's pick the tests that are the best, state level tests, and reduce tests at district level that don't actually help kids. So that we are spending more time learning in the classroom. So that's one thing. And then the last one is the Public School Information and Choice Act, which would actually, this is brand new. It would actually bring choice to the public school. I'm sure okay. It would basically say that if you want to go to a public school in Florida that is not your zone school, you can apply. It doesn't matter if it's in another district. It doesn't matter if it's across town. It doesn't matter if it's across the street. If you want to go to that school, you can apply to that school, and if there's room in that school, you can go to it. So that's huge, because right now, you can try to do that, and you can fight your way through the process, but there's no guarantee you can actually get it. The other thing is, if you are not happy with the teacher that your child has in your public school, you can request a change for a teacher, and they won't tell the teacher that you requested that change until they have given you another option. So that way your child isn't treated differently because you're not happy with that teacher. And then the last thing it would do would actually give you information about how much money the school district gets to educate your child. So if your child isn't getting a good education, you can say, well, where is all this money that they're getting going? So the last slide is really encouraging you, and Jorge talked about this, to activate. None of this will happen if you guys don't ask for it. I guarantee you none of it will happen if you don't ask for it. We have tried to pass legislation in the past. We didn't have enough parent support. It failed. And so you have to write your legislator. You have to speak out and share your story like the parent did on Wednesday. And you have to share information with your friends and your colleagues and your neighbors in whatever way you want. Walk across the street, knock on the door, give them some information, put it on Facebook, tweet it out, Snapchat it, whatever you guys do, do it. It is critical. None of this will change if you guys don't take action. So I will leave on that note. Good Lord.